Hello everyone and welcome to my build for the Warden class, and this is a MAGICKA Warden. So the MAGICKA Warden is a class that everyone thinks is just a really tanky and healy class. I don't do tanks and I don't do healers, so I have made it a build that successfully works, and this build has damage. That's what you want to have, damage, and that is what we've got here. So to explain generally what we're doing, I will go on to the skills. We've got our test dummy here, Mr. Elesmo. We'll show it all on him. But for the time being, let's start with the sets. We are in heavy armor, 5 heavy, 1 medium, 1 light. In my opinion, you do want that over the 6 heavy, 1 light that I would normally go for in heavy. I like the extra stats for the damage, but up to you, I suppose. So our sets, we are using 1 Ground-Hog. This is just for the MAGICKA, 5 Seducer, and 5 Necropotents. And how we piece this together is a Necro Staff, Inferno, and Resto Staff. We run with 3 Necro Jewelry, 1 Necro Sash, so we get our light on the sash for the lowest resistances, the medium gloves of Seducer for the next lowest, and then the major pieces are all heavy for max resistances. Our glyphs are all tri-enchanted. Health works really well with the Warden, and you are going to want the stamina with the way we play this class. You're not losing that much Magicka because of how much we actually have in this build, and so it does work out good to tri-glyph everything, in my opinion. Of course, adjust it as you want. You can always play a build in the way that you personally want it. This is just the way that I would suggest running the build. Our glyphs on our jewelry are all... sorry, not that all. They're not even close at all. 1 spell damage and 2 reduction of cost. That makes our spell damage pretty low, but most of your damage is going to scale from your Magicka. If you're really careful with sustain, you could run another spell damage glyph, but in the battlegrounds with no CP and all that, I don't think you're going to get away with that. So remember that a lot of sustain things have changed in this patch. It's much harder to sustain, and so you do need a lot more recovery and reduced cost and that sort of stuff. That's what this build does. Yeah, so it's that simple on the glyphs. One other thing to mention is our poison. I will explain why, but we're using the heal over time poison you would have seen on the Mage Blade. So this class plays similar to the Mage Blade. We are using a heal over time poison to just help our survivability a little bit. Our enchants, everything is impen. We're not going to have a shield up that often, so having impen is going to help your resistances a lot. No other trait really benefits us here, and so it's better to just capitalize on the resistance. Does the gold jewelry matter? No, it does not. So, our skills. Should I do the skills first? I think I'm going to do the stats first. That might be a bit easier. Let's quickly show you the stats. And I'll show you these stats in a duel so I can show you properly. And this is our buffed stats, by the way. So, include the fact that this Netch thing is both proccing as a pet and major sorcery. So, this is with major sorcery. With major sorcery, our spell damage is 1.81k. Obviously, we're heavy armor, so that will go up to 2k, 2.1k-ish with the heavy armor passives. And then with our weapon enchant, we're getting about 2.5k total on our spell damage. So roughly, our spell damage is going to peak about 2.5k, which sounds really low until you realize that our Magicka is 48k. So our Magicka is super high, and that is where our damage is scaling from. Our max health is then 25k, our max stamina 12.5k. That's plenty if you are careful, because the character does have some passives helping your stamina sustain. And then we are 1.8k magic recovery and 663 stamina recovery to help with that. Our crit chance, by the way, in heavy armor is 32%, which really is not bad at all. So crit is not too much of an issue. And our spell resist and physical resist unbuffed already really high. If we do buff that up with our resistance skill, we do go all the way up as high as 26.5 and 21.6k resist, so pretty damn good on there. My weapon glyph, by the way, is spell damage and weapon damage. I did forget to mention that. That's how we're getting that extra damage. The other one doesn't matter because of the poison suppressing it. So let's explain the skills. I'm going to go over what each skill does first and then explain the combo, because this combo is brand new. I would like to think that I invented this combo. There might have been people out there who have used it, I don't know. But essentially speaking, I have not seen anyone else who's done it. And so for that sense, you are better off going with the general setup that this is. It's complicated, I will explain it anyway. So, skills. Our first skill is Cliff Racer. This is slightly delayed, so I'm going to show you what each of these skills does. What this skill does is it has a tooltip of 9.18k. This is obviously with CP and all of that stuff. And it will also do more damage at range. It's quite cheap to cast. So we cast it, but there is a delay, and then it impacts for decent damage, and we hit a 6.4k crit there. Next skill, pretty bread and butter, is Crushing Shock. You're wondering why I'm using that. I'll explain why. Obviously, we do have a spammable DPS in Cliff Racer, but I'll show you why I use Crushing Shock as well. It's also a really nice interrupt. You'll see it in a lot of magic builds. Great skill. Next skill, both of these morphs are good. Go by your preference. This is Growing Swarm. So what this does is a huge dot for 10 seconds. And then that dot will spread onto 6 other people straight afterwards if they are in range. The other morph of this is Infectious Swarm. What that will do is it will do 50% more damage if you cast it twice in a row. So you'll get an even bigger dot. Since I'm going to mostly play Battlegrounds, I do like the other one. I think the extra damage is going to help your group a decent amount. It's going to spread a lot and really amp your group's damage up. But each to their own. What you do notice is very, very cheap damage. Really, really strong dot. So I'll quickly show you the animation of that. If people haven't seen that. It puts the dot on and it ticks away on him like so. Our next skill is Deep Fissure. This is going to be your most important skill on your bar. Remember, all these tooltips right now are unbuffed. So, stir a group of Shork that attack after 3 seconds, dealing 11,730 damage and CCing the closest enemy. That's only the closest. You've got to keep that in mind. So, this one has a big delay. I cast it and then I have to wait. And then it comes up and hits really hard CC. Although that looks overpowered, there is a lot of avoidability to this. So I'm going to cast it, and then what I'm going to do is turn. It does not cast in the way you've turned. It casts in the way that you're finally facing when the proc goes off. So again, I'm going to cast it, turn, and it will go off in that direction, etc. And that's how you're generally going to see that skill played. I'm then running Mage Light. We're stacking a lot of Magicka. That's going to give more than Major Sorcery, so that's really important there. The crit does help, but we actually get that from another skill later on, so it doesn't matter much. It's more just about getting another 7% Magicka. So 5% for slotting, 2% for Mage Guild skills. Our ultimate on the front bar is Northern Storm. I am never going to cast this. It's basically a shit destroy, but it gives you 8% extra max Magicka when slotted, which really amplifies your damage significantly. So that is why the ultimate is there. It's just there for the damage. It's going to buff all of our other skills. It's going to increase our shields if we were to put our shields on this bar. That's essentially why it's there. Our other bar then. So we have Blue Belly Netch. There's 2 different types. This is called the Blue Betty. This restores Magicka. It gives us Major Sorcery and removes 1 negative effect. And it's free. It works out to about 300 regen, and it casts as a pet. It's going to be one of your most important skills. So there he is. You'll see he casts my Magicka up. If I spam some skills, I get a bit of Magicka recovery from him, and it's kind of handy. So it's a nice little skill to have. I find it very handy, and obviously it's also proccing our Necro set. Our next skill is Ice Fortress. So this is giving us major resistances in both physical and Magicka. It's also giving us minor protection, which reduces your damage taken by 8%. That's a big damage reduction. Now, you can get around that in another way in the other morph. The other morph will give the cost a lot cheaper, so it makes it about 2.3k instead of 3.1k, around 30% less. But that minor protection, in my opinion, is worth it. Hence, I take this morph. And again, this is what the skill looks like. People who have not seen it, sort of a nice thing pops around you. Obvious skills now, Healing Ward. That's going to be our base heal for the resto bar. And also a nice damage shield. And then I also like Dampen Magic here. I like the shield. You can run Harness here if it's your preference. I like the bigger shield personally because there's a lot of stamina out right now. Stamina Warden is insanely strong. Magical Warden is harder to play. And so you're going to see tons and tons of stamina fighting against you. For that reason, I like fighting with Dampen over Harness. But it's down to your preference. And then we are running Lotus Blossom. This is a really important skill for the way we're going to play this build in the end. I've played a lot around with this final slot. I do like a lot of skills here, but I ended up falling on this one. This restores 1.4k health back every light attack and 4k every heavy attack for 20 seconds and gives you crit. So this is here as a heal over time. So let me get a Lesmo to get me down a bit. And then I'll just sort of show the heal over time here. If, of course, he ever comes back. Okay, looks like he's slacking. While we're waiting for a Lesmo to wake up, if he ever does... Oh, there we go. He's getting us down now. So, there we go. So, we proc our thing here, and then we can light attack, and we're getting a heal over time from those light attacks to counter his injection. So, it works out about the same as injection, just the other way, maybe a little bit more. Then we are running Meteor. That's going to be our main ultimate for our death combo. This works out really good. Now, a quick disclaimer. You can also use the bear. The bear in a 1v1 is the single most OP shit you will ever see. In a 1v1, you are not going to be good person with a bear, it's going to be impossible. Because the bear completely blocks you off. You can't do shit against it. Much like a Sork pet, you can't target anything. It just gets in the way. It also hits pretty good. However, open world and in the battlegrounds, I do not like it. It gets a little lost. It's sometimes, you know, a little drunk, and you're not going to see the benefit of it fully. I will go over that pretty soon, mate. So, how our combo works before I explain some of the passives in this class that you guys won't have seen. We do the following. So, in full burst combo, we light attack buff the Netch. That's going to give us our Magicka. We light attack buff resistance. We light attack buff heal over time. That's going to be our order on rotation because of the duration of each buff. We have 25 seconds, 24 seconds, 20 seconds. That means they're going to go down at about the same time on recast. We're then going to bar swap. We're going to light attack put our dot up. Light attack cast Fissure. Light attack cast the Twilight. And then we're going to use whatever in there at the same time. And I just used the wrong ultimate. Fuck my life. I got to get a Meteor. Let me get a Meteor because it's really important I show this combo. It's just really hard to target here. Come down here, Elesmo. I'm going to try to show this as best as possible because it's something that's quite hard to show. And a really complex rotation. This is the only way to generate good damage as a Magicka Warden, in my opinion. I have not found any other ways to get a good burst combo. So, once I get my ultimate here, I'm going to explain again exactly how you do this rotation, but a bit quicker. So, you get the general idea. I cast buff, 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 weapon swap, dot, fissure. Oops, turn that away from him. Cliff Racer. If I don't have an ultimate, I then use a crushing shock. If I do have an ultimate, I then use my ultimate, and then I'll crushing shock as he gets CC'd. The reason, by the way, that Meteor is actually a nice ulti here, also, although it's blockable, generally speaking, it's going to time perfectly with your Fissure so that they're going to be CC'd as the Meteor is visible, and they're still going to take the hit from it. But yeah, let me get this ultimate, and I'll show you the combo fully buffed. We'll get him to heal real fast. Pretty close now. Any second. I'm sorry that I fucked up the ulti, guys. Alright, we're going to get him to heal up and not block as if it's a real fight, because obviously it's not going to perma block. So, here we go. We have an ultimate up. We are going to do the following. Light attack buff. Light attack buff. Light attack buff. Light attack dot. Light attack fissure. Light attack cliff racer. Light attack meteor. Crushing shock. And that's where your burst comes from. It's a humongous burst because you are getting in the same game tick your fissure, your cliff racer, your meteor, and your crushing shock with a dot tick. All of that comes in at the same second, and that is why the combo is so strong for damage. It's the only way I found of getting a nice burst. So, why is my bar set up as it is? I'm going to explain some of the passives here, because obviously people have not seen the Warden class. So, we're going to go over all of the passives. Some of them might not be so relevant to the build, particularly some of them will be. So, first one, when one of your animal's companions is killed or unsummoned, you restore 1260 health. This is a really nice way to regain Magicka. You do also get it from your Cliff Racer, as far as I've been told. So, when I cast a Cliff Racer, you do get it. I've not yet tested if it works on the Netch. If it does, that would be seriously good, because technically you could spam the Netch and actually get it back, but we'll see. Next one is Savage Beast passive. So what the Savage Beast passive does is when activating an animal companion, we get some ultimate. Pretty similar to Nightblade with siphoning. It's just a bit of ultimate back. Doesn't change much. But yeah, not very build specific. The next one, however, is more build specific. So, oh wait, no, it's not. This one increases your Magicka and stamina recovery by 12%. That stamina recovery, by the way, is really important. That's how you're going to sustain your stamina pool on the low pool. It's not a huge buff in stam recovery, but it does make enough of a difference with your tripods to actually be able to sustain that really low stam pool. This is the one why we are running our damage abilities on the front. So the reason that we run our animal companion on the front is that we get more damage for having animal companions on the front bar. So our animal companions are Growing Swarm, Fissure, and the Bat Thing. Obviously, we could also put Netch on there, but if we put the Netch on there, we have to lose Mage Light or something like that, and that is not worth the time. So that's why I set up my bar as shown. On our back bar, we move on to the Green Balance and the other tree. So let's go over them real fast. We are running Accelerated Growth when healing an ally under 40% health. That's important to remember. You're gaining Major Mending, so that's really handy. It's only for 3 seconds. It's not insanely long, but that can help you if you do get low with your heal over times, your heal ward, that sort of stuff. Especially with a heal ward, that pairs really, really well because we're going to get that burst from the heal when Major Mending is up, and that really, really helps. Our next one then is Nature's Growth. When healing with a green balance ability gains magic and stamina. Again, helps that stamina sustain on the low pool. Doesn't matter much. But then we see this one here. This is why the green balance ability, or abilities, if you choose to change the build. I have also tried Leeching Vines instead of Dampen. It's close, but I prefer this one. That's going to increase your healing on your healing bar. So that's why we're running those on 1 bar. And then the last passive is when healing, you gain Major Toughness, which increases your max health. So for that reason, Blossom is going to proc our toughness. So when we get a heal from this, we get Major Toughness that increases our max health by 10%, and we can keep that up most of the time. Final passive is Winter Embrace. We get 200% chill damage. Doesn't matter much for this build. Physical and spell resist. Doesn't matter much for this build. Reduce the effectiveness of snares applied to you. Well, can't complain. And increase your physical and frost damage. Again, doesn't matter much for this build, but you get the general idea of how we're applying these passives to the build. Last but not least, I know it's been a long video, is our food and our tripods things. So obviously we're using Witch Mother's Potent Brew. That's how we're sustaining and all of that. It's how we're getting our health and our Magicka up. We are using tripods, though. If you are against the Magicka Nightblade, I would suggest using a movability pots and a stamina Nightblade. Detection is the most brutal thing to fight against. There are some hard counters to this Magicka Warden, and invisibility is one of them. Because you have to stack so many damage abilities into the same tick, if you're against a Nightblade, you can't fight them. They cloak anywhere in your weave and you lose it. So you need detection on them to have any chance to actually connect with them when they do that. And that's both Magicka and stamina. Anything with invisibility, you need detection on them to have a chance to kill them, because otherwise they're just going to hide from you. At least the good one is, and you're going to have no chance of ever getting your burst off. So do have some detection pots. I would suggest this one, Detect, Stealth, and Magicka. You can also get Detect, Health, and Magicka, I think. But I'm not sure. Our Mundus is the Atronach. We are a vampire as well. So that's going to give us a bit of extra regen. Also resistances when we get low to help us get that Major Mending off. The health recovery doesn't matter much in this build. Now I'm going to go over the CP. So quick disclaimer. The CP is good. It's probably not 100% min-maxed. It might not be perfect because I have not really focused too much on the CP. Battlegrounds obviously has no CP. Most of the PvP campaigns have no CP. So at that point, I'm not too fussed about it. But I will go over it. It's relatively good. I got a lot of this ideas from Hexis and Samoin. So I've sort of played around with those and then applied my own knowledge to it as well to get it to a point where I like it. But anyway, so we are running 13 in Siphoner. It does reduce their recovery a tiny bit. Don't stack too much into there. It's only for 3 seconds. You don't see that buff much. But a big thing about the CP now is if you put too many points into a tree, the gain per point is so pitifully small that it's better to spread your points a good amount and try to get the most of it. 44 in Warlords. You're going to see a lot of benefit from this tree. That reduces the cost of break free. Big help. You can stack a lot in there. It's pretty generous in the amount of points it gives you per. So really good to put one in there. 1 in bashing, just in case I do accidentally bash or have to interrupt something about crushing shock, that sort of stuff. We have 13 in Mooncarve, bit of stamina recovery. Again, there's no point stacking it elsewhere. It's not going to help us. We're going to get so little gain from it. 60 in Arcanist to help our Magicka recovery. We are 47 in Tenacity. That's going to give us sustain from heavy attacks. 1 in Healthy for health recovery. That's just a sort of... essentially 1 point gives you an okay gain. You don't get much from it, but for the time being, it might as well go there because, again, it gives you nothing else really elsewhere. So it's one of those things. I mean, you can spread the points out quite a lot. 31 in Tumbling, that's for roll dodge. Obviously, very important if you do have a lot of people on you. Even with low stamina, there are occasions where you will need to roll dodge. You can honestly afford to roll dodge once or twice here because of your pets before your pot. You just have to watch your pool very carefully. In the blue tree, our crit chance is really not that terrible. So we have 24 points into crit damage. We have 56 in Elemental Expert base damage. 34 in Spell Erosion. This one scales pretty generously. It's certainly not bad to put some points in there, so that does help you out. 13 in Shattering Blows increases damage against shields. 71 in Master Arms. This tree is really powerful. You will want to have at least some points in here. It's super, super strong. 6 in Staff Expert for your light and heavy attacks. Again, you're going to weave all the time. Does help you out. And 6 in Firmatouch just for our 1 dot. You could put some more in there. I'm not really sure. Again, I haven't played that much with it. Finally, the red tree, 51 to reduce direct damage. So to counter out the Master Arms, we put points in there. That gives us 19 in there. 6 in Spell Shield for Spell Resist. 29 in Crit Resist. You don't want to put too many in there anymore. It doesn't scale very nice. If we were to put more in there, it scales pretty bad. 8 in Thick Skin for dots. 6 in Light Armor for resistances. Actually, I don't know why they're in there. They should be in heavy armor. I don't even know why I have that. I'm an idiot, basically. That's why. That should be in heavy armor. Ignore me. In heavy armor for resistances. 30 in hardy and elemental defender. They scale really badly now, so just leave that pretty low. And then 50 in bastion for shields and 6 in heavy focus. That's what I meant before. So, I think I covered everything. Obviously, it's complicated. I want to go over this rotation once without the ultimate a sec. So, let me quickly show you that. And then that will probably do for the explanation. Just to show you that you don't necessarily need burst to generate a kill. That is, of course, if Alesmo is going to help. I need to remember to pick someone else next time. So, one final thing. A quick weave of every skill. We're going to do everything in order. So, here we go. Potion. Light attack ability. Cancel off. Light attack ability. Light attack ability. Light attack dot. Light attack fissure. Light attack bat. And light attack crushing shock. And there is your burst. And that's where you get your kill. And then obviously we'll just kill him off with another crushing shock. Or whatever. And that's how you get a kill. So, there is the general weave for you. I have explained it a lot. If you are struggling with knowledge of the class, rewatch it a few more times. But that should be a general thing. Stamina Warden coming next. I will give that a play. And best of luck to you. There we go. Good.